Welcome to the Overland Park Business Club. I'm Jim Grant. I'm the chair of the Technology Exchange Community for the Business Club, and I'm honored today to be able to interview Bob Sherwood, who's been a great resource here at the Business Club. Today we hope to bring some things to light for small business owners that we serve, business professionals and executives that are making a difference in how technology is affecting their business. Bob is been around Kansas City for a while, but is probably best known in his career. You'll check back to our last interview for his foray in starting some well-known companies in Silicon Valley. Raster Ops, EDC, if I remember correct.
Correct.
And is kind of living a living retirement, as you described it to me, here in Kansas City. So welcome, Bob.
Thank you.
So we've kind of broken this up into three areas. We're going to talk about technology trends that affect small business, device independence and the cloud. I think that's a big, interesting topic for small business folks. And then a big word we'll get to and kind of work into disintermediation and what it's doing to the small business environment these days. So Bob, what technology trends do you see going on for small businesses and the way we do business that you see affecting us for the next few years?
Jim, I think there are a number of trends, but I think there's two atmospheric trends that affect everything that we're probably going to talk about today. And the number one trend, not necessarily a priority in that order, but the number one is the fact that storage costs keep getting lower and lower. This affects any number of things that we're doing. We'll get into that maybe later. And the second one is the speed at which we can communicate. In other words, 15 years ago, it took like 10 minutes to download a 3 megabyte file. Now it takes about 15 seconds.
Right.
And when I was building computers some years ago, we paid $200 for a 10 megabyte drive. And now we pay $20 for a 64 gigabyte drive. So those two big trends, which are going to continue, faster speed and lower storage costs, affect everything every business does.
Yeah, so this is the techie in me coming about. We called that Moore's Law for years, and so you don't see that ending. You think we'll keep...
Well, Moore's Law is over. I mean, we've already beaten that, by an exponential. And thanks to the quantum physicists who keep saying that we can pile more and more electrons into a smaller and smaller drive. For example, I brought with me today an 8 gigabyte flash drive, except that this flash drive has a voice recorder in it also. So I can record 8 hours of voice on this recorder as well as 8 gigabytes of storage. So Moore's Law, which was popular for probably 15 years, is going to get exponentially, it's going to accelerate as it is. I mean, when you realize that you can keep your entire life's documents on 64 gigabytes for $30, that's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah. So how does the average small business owner keep up with what's going on in technology, how it affects their business, and how do they decide what to use technology for in their business?
Well, I recommend I would say three things that people can do that I think every business should do, whether they're a small business or a large business. One is to pore over the annual Deloitte report. Deloitte is a accounting firm, and every year they put out what they call their technology trends for 2016. Now it's directed toward Fortune 100 corporations, but it affects everything that we're doing. Now, for example, if you would have read the 2016 report, you would have noticed that they identified iBeacon technology as one of the big trends. And sure enough, even locally, Black & Veatch, which is one of the largest engineering firms in the United States, located right here in Kansas, they're using iBeacon to track people at job sites. So iBeacon technology is being used in some churches to track people that walk in the door. So one is look at the Deloitte report. Now, there's two other things I recommend people to do, and this is hard work, and that's go somewhere where you do your strategic thinking. Now, I do my strategic thinking in South Dakota, for example. I can't think strategically in Overland Park, Kansas. So I go there for a couple of days. And what I do when I get there is I look at all the early specifications for the upcoming iOS or Windows operating system. For example, now we have Windows 10 coming out, we have iOS 10 coming out. So I recommend to people they pore over those new features. And there are a number of features that are important. And I'll give you one that I think affects every business, and that is that GPS technology allows you to plot things on a map, obviously, right? Apple allows you to look at a whole list of things or contacts and plot only 50 on a map. I have a mobile app that I developed called Pinpoint Search, but I can only plot 50 pins at a time. Well, iOS 10 is going to expand that. When it gets to 500, I'll be able to invoke that application and plot every person I know, every golf course I play at, a restaurant I go to on my map, and expand the map and know what I have to do. So there are three things. Read the Deloitte report, and then really study the iOS and Windows operating systems. So
there's obviously a lot of opportunity in new technology trends, but I think the average small business or professional struggles day to day with technology and possibly even hinders their business. What are ways that technology gets in the way of the small business person trying to choose or over-choose too many tools to use in their business?
Technology is cool, and it's kind of seductive. It kind of sucks you in because we all like to talk about it. And I find it can be harmful to business. I'll give an example. Intuit. I love Intuit as a corporation. In fact, I licensed one of my products to them years ago, and I got paid 25 cents for every copy of Intuit QuickBooks that was sold. So a person calls me from Nebraska, and they have a problem with their accounts receivable. And they say, look, I'm going to send you a copy of it. I'm going to go to my Intuit. So about 2 days later, they still couldn't figure out how to use Intuit to do that. So I asked them, I said, well, how many invoices do you have a month? They said 10. So I said, let's get on the phone together, and we created an Excel spreadsheet with those 10 accounts receivables, and then I set it up so we can use that. He didn't need QuickBooks. Most small business, and again, it's going to sound like heresy to people that love QuickBooks, but most small businesses just don't need it. They need an Excel spreadsheet because they invoice 10 people a month. They've got maybe 5 or 6 vendors they work with. So I call it the Intuit hole. The Intuit hole. You can get in that hole and never get out. You don't need that. And the most current one is the CRM hole. Everybody wants to have the basic, use Salesforce.com. Businesses don't need that. You need an Excel spreadsheet because you maybe have 20 customers. Why spend an hour trying to get the data into the system when you can actually use Excel? So I see small businesses, businesses of 1, 2, and 3 people trying to use those tools, and they spend so much time on the tool, they don't spend enough time on what they're supposed to do, which is contact their customer and work on orders. Right.
So sometimes the best technology is pen and paper.
Pen and paper works great too. If you have 4 or 5 customers, why even use Excel?
Yeah. So we'll kind of move in toward device independence and talk about the cloud. We had a great session last night here at the club about cloud technologies and what those mean. So how is the cloud, maybe we'll define that a little bit, transforming the way businesses work now?
Well, the cloud's a marketing buzzword, basically created by marketing people. There's nothing new about the cloud. It's just a server located somewhere else where you put things that you want to access. And it goes back to the original point I made, which was the overlying trend of decreased storage. The cloud exists, or let's say other servers exist because of decreased storage. Right now, Google, for example, is building a plant in Nebraska, and they're going to have 50,000 servers there. And so a lot of us will probably be storing some of our information there. But to me, I use Dropbox. That's fine. There's 2 kinds of things that people should think about when they're going to put something somewhere else. We'll call it the cloud. I hate that term because it's such a marketing kind of buzzword. When it's really just a server located somewhere else where you put stuff, there's 2 kinds of things you might put there. One is you put your documents. If you don't have your documents there now, then you're behind the curve. I have all my documents on Dropbox, which is my selection. You have other options too. And I can access them anywhere I want. They're device independent. No matter where I go in the world, I can access every document I need. The second part of the cloud, if you will, is where you locate your applications. For the most part, most businesses do not need to locate their applications or subscribe their applications through a remote server. I actually subscribe to Adobe that way, and that's fine. It keeps me current, but it's expensive. And I really don't need to do that with the amount of Adobe that I use, but I like it because it does keep me current. But I do put all my documents up. So kind of summarize it this way. If you're a small business, you need to right away upload your documents to some server like Dropbox. Keep your applications on your device. So now you're device independent. You're platform interoperable, which means you can go somewhere and use a Windows machine, access your documents on a Dropbox. Use a Mac machine, access your material on Dropbox. And of course, it's time shifted, so you can do it 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year from wherever you are. You need to do that.
Right. So I think this opens up a lot of, well, we discussed this before. It all comes back around. We used to have mainframes and terminals. Then we moved to everybody keeping their information on a PC somewhere where nobody else could get to it. Now we've moved back to being able to share information on the web or the cloud. What opportunity does that bring for small businesses collaborating with customers, developing new products, and that they can share and collaborate?
Well, you've said it. I mean, it gives you the opportunity to share and collaborate. For example, if you're using Dropbox, I have probably a dozen people that I collaborate with on Dropbox, and I have perhaps 50 folders in Dropbox. And if I wanted to share a folder with you now, I could take my iPhone out of my pocket and simply go to my Dropbox on my iPhone, put your email address in there. You'd get an email from me, and it would say, now that particular folder in my Dropbox is accessible by you. These are really fundamental things. And if you're not doing it today, then you're totally behind the curve in terms of technology, because this is really basic. If you're doing any kind of writing, sharing documents, I don't know anybody that I deal with today that doesn't use some form of a remote server, such as Dropbox, to share materials with. The applications are incredible. I mean, if you, let's say you're in the financial services business, and you've got 40 customers, well, you can easily set up a folder for each customer. Now, all the information you need for that customer can be in that folder. That person can access it, which means you don't need to send them an email. If you got a 50 megabyte document you want to share with them, some report on some financial company, drop it in the Dropbox. They get a notification that it's there. They can go look at it. Yeah. So there's all kinds of applications.
So one of the trends I see a lot now, especially with the people that I deal with, my clients, are they connect and communicate with you in so many different ways, and email is almost secondary anymore. I see them chatting me on Facebook, same time, Google Hangouts, and you name it. Do you communicate that way a lot, or do you see that as a major trend? Slack is really taken over a lot of collaboration space.
Well, again, most of the collaboration spaces are designated by the level of security they have. So, for example, you can get some very, very secure collaboration spaces. I use some techniques with Citrix, and Citrix is extremely secure, but you don't have to go that far. You can collaborate with Facebook, not quite as secure. You can collaborate with any number of collaboration technologies. The important thing there is not which technology is the best or which one is the best, it's that you use one. So I always say it's what tool are you using for collaboration, and then make sure that other people use it. I do a lot of WebEx with people. I do a lot of GoToMeeting with people. All those are really fundamental things that really shouldn't have to be sold to anybody. If you're not using them, then the people that do use them will simply will put you out of business more than likely, because they're so efficient. Obviously, they save time, they improve the ability to collaborate, things of that nature. So, but one more thing on that point. I'm always amazed at the people that still rely on email. I'm just amazed that people will still think, oh, I'm still emailing all my clients rather than texting them. I have 27 people in ACA that I've been texting to. The open rate for text is close to 100%, the readership on a text, right? If you put a link in on a text, the rate for people going to that link is over 50% on a text. On an email, it's 1/10 of that. Plus, people get 50, 60 emails a day. But people respond to texts, and depending on your age group, it's even more powerful. So I was in a meeting the other day, and somebody was asking about texting, and I think the person wondered if it was legal to text like you can email, because they hadn't read enough on it to recognize that is the direction. In fact, I tell people now, quit trying to develop your email list. Don't waste any more time doing it. It's just a waste of time. Move all your customers over to texting right away. You have the same kinds of rules. People can opt in or opt out. They can shut you down or let you in, right? But most people, if you're texting somebody who knows that you have an interest in what they're doing and vice versa, they're going to read your text. Now, one more point on the texting is that texting is a little harder than email. It takes a little more thought.
Right.
You can't just run off the mouth in a text. You have to have a point and a call to action and then a send. Whereas in an email, if you've got emails from people, you know you can send 4 or 5 paragraphs and still not understand what the person wanted you to know.
And they only answer the first question anyway, right? Well, so let's take that technology shift and how that's affecting business and talk about disintermediation. So we had a conversation about this last week. I thought it was a great topic because our businesses have opportunity and threat from being displaced with technology. And so maybe we should start by talking about what is disintermediation and some examples.
I was at a bar a couple of nights ago, and I had a fellow from Wells Fargo Bank next to me. He was a wealth advisor, and he was asking me about things, and I said, well, my word for the day is this disintermediation. And he said, well, I've been using that word for 20 years because it's been happening to the banks. And of course, that's a good example. The banks have been in that area for years, and at the highest level, it really means cutting out the middleman. If you were to Google it, somebody's probably out there doing it right now, it probably has a definition of just cut out the middleman. I reviewed a Toyota website and their 5-year plan for their website. And they spend $75 million a year on their website. And they really believe that they'll eventually cut out the dealer. And if you were to look at the way Toyota does their sales now, they will tell you that a very high percentage of people that buy a Toyota actually go to their site first, go through the colors, the models, the pricing, the whole thing, then go to the dealer by the time they've narrowed down to 1 or 2 choices. They want the person to do everything at the site. So they want to disintermediate the dealer. Now banks, I don't know how many people have been in a bank lately. I was in a bank the other day, and there was like 8 people there doing nothing, I think, but wasn't much to do. So the banks have been disintermediated. Retail stores have been disintermediated. In other words, the middleman has been removed, and it's slowly but surely happening in insurance, TD Ameritrade. Look at all the financial models that I used to have. Morgan Stanley used to call on me in person. I don't even know anybody with Morgan Stanley anymore because I go to TD Ameritrade, your portfolio is right there, you look at it all the time, you get all the help you need, and it's done. So they have eliminated the middle person. Geico, the insurance businesses, you just go on and on. Every business is affected by disintermediation. Somebody's being removed. It can't be too long before my friend Jim Efforts, who grows corn out here, I'll simply go to the website and order corn from Jim directly rather than the store and have it delivered the next day by one of the Amazon people, because the stores will be to a degree disintermediated. Hard to believe, but that's the direction that's going. And again, it's being caused because of the 2 main factors we talked about earlier. Storage getting cheaper every day, and the speed of transmission of electronic communications is faster every day.
Well, so let's bring that back to the small business person like myself, a web developer. We have CPAs, accountants, attorneys. How do they evaluate what they're doing in their business and avoid disintermediation or find the opportunities there? I know last week we talked a little bit about the value chain and how we might take a look at that and see where we should take our business to stay relevant.
Well, let's look at you're a web developer, right? If we know one thing about website development, the average website gets cheaper every quarter. Used to be it was 25 grand for a website, and then it was 5, then it was 1. Now people quote websites for $500. the technology of doing it has been disintermediated itself because the templates are so, the templates are the disintermediating technology. You can go to WordPress and design a website in about 2 or 3 hours. It won't do everything that a person might want it to do, but it's your basic website. 5 or 6 web pages, it's got nice pictures. Those are all templates. So one thing is, I think, that's going back to people that are in the internet business, they got to change their model. And your choices are to continue the model you have now and eventually be out of business because the price of what you're doing gets lower and lower and lower, or change your model completely. And there are ways to do that. We could talk about that, but I think that's one way. You have to look at your basic model and change it and not wait, because if you wait, you may just miss the boat, or eventually you'll be like the Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon wasn't made in a day, but it was slow erosion. And that's what we see in certain businesses, slow erosion. Banks, for example. Internet banks start up and get $50 million in deposits in a few weeks. They don't have any buildings, they have low overhead, right? So now you take law firms, they face the same issues. They try to become disintermediated because of what they know about their own clients. They're trying to make it easier for their clients to work with them. They probably have the least chance of being disintermediated because in many situations they control the regulations. Now in the website world, for example, there are many regulations now for website development. You probably know many of them. Maybe some people here in the audience don't. But for example, I was involved in a number of cases where some states have regulations as to the size of the font that you can put on a website in certain areas. For example, let's say you have a subscription-based model for a product, and you put on this subscription-based model, sign here for $19.95 a month. But the small print says, if you don't tell us, it goes on forever and ever. Well, there are regulations that actually states have that require you to put that font in a certain size, very specific. It's got to be a certain point, it's got to be a certain type, it's got to be related to the ad in a certain way so that an average person can see it. So those are all things that affect what I call disintermediation.
And maybe the value that, so let's take that back to the web design example. So previously I'm selling 2 new clients a month at $5,000. Now websites are $500. How do I either keep my own value up to provide websites, or how do I find 50 more clients a month?
I think you give it away free. I mean, for example, I think that you give your clients websites for free and charge them for something else. Because in terms of what you're doing, what your knowledge is, right? The least important part of your knowledge is how to do that website. The most important part is how to use that website in the person's business, right?
Right.
That's what they should pay for. That's the high value add. You can put up a website in 4 hours, and most owners still don't know what to do with it. So my feeling is, again, you may not want to give it away for free, but I say jump ahead of the competition, because there's always a cheaper price on a website, always a cheaper price. And it's so hard to write the specs, because owner said, well, I really didn't want that color. Well, you didn't tell me you didn't like blue, right? So you got all these issues. But I think fundamentally you give a website away for free, talking about your particular case, and you sell the high value add stuff, which is the use of the website to convert visitors into sales.
Right. Well, is there anything you'd like to add in this area? Otherwise, I think we'll wrap up and move on to questions.